Talking Reddit presents r/AskReddit. What's one missing persons case that has always stuck with you? Jennifer Kess. I ran into her father 5 years after her abduction, posting missing persons flyers at a gas station 3 hours away from her abduction site. He never gave up. Her beautiful face still haunts me, and I still see posters around Florida 14 years later. Oh, that was the one with the unfortunately not very helpful video footage, right? Of the person dropping her car off at some parking lot, but the frame rate of the camera is so low that in every single frame, the suspect is behind a fence post, so you can't make anything out. Liaki. She was left home alone for the first time ever, during the remnants of Hurricane Andrew in 1992. Her mom went to work, leaving Lee at home, and tried to call her once she arrived. Lee didn't answer the phone, and her mom got worried and left work to make sure she was okay. When she arrived home, she found blood that hadn't congealed yet, but no sign of Lee, and she immediately called the police. Lee has never been found, but her glasses were mailed to her ex-stepdad a few weeks after she disappeared. Ethan Patz was 6 years old, disappeared on a crowded New York City street walking to the bus stop on the corner. Ethan was never found. Johnny Gosh is the one that really sticks out though. 12 years old, Iowa boy. Disappeared early morning while delivering newspapers. His parents were mailed photos of their son tied up in bondage. A sex offender confessed to kidnapping Johnny and selling him into a child sex slavery ring. Johnny was never found. He was the original missing child on a milk carton. Blair Adams. He ran from Western Canada to the American South, saying he was being chased by someone. No one believed him. He was found, beat to death in a parking lot with $5,000 worth of 3 foreign currencies scattered all around his body. Kristen Smart. Disappeared in 1996. Paul Flores was the last one to see her. She was reportedly too intoxicated to walk without assistance. The entire Flores family acted suspiciously in the weeks following her disappearance. My personal theory is that he took her to his room and sexually assaulted her. She subsequently died of alcohol poisoning. He called his father, who helped him dispose of her body. The Flores family has recently been served with several warrants, so I'm hoping the family gets some closure and she gets some justice. Scroll down looking for this. I live in the area. For any who hasn't yet, listen to Your Own Backyard, a podcast that came out recently. Thorough, thoughtful, and overall, well done. Ryan Stuka. Kamloops, BC. February 17, 2018. Last seen walking home, last heard in the background of a phone call arguing with an unknown person. I'm only a year or two younger in age from him, and have quite a few friends who knew him, and he was a very well-liked guy. There have been over 4,000 people looking for him in search parties, and absolutely no leads or clues. Quite a few people think his friends killed him. Sad story. Mount Vernon, Jane Doe. Beaten and bound, strangled, then her body left out nude, in the middle of the day in a junkyard posed in a very ritualistic position. She was found quickly after her body was dumped, feet together and arms spread out with hands up, like a crucifix. Ligature marks on neck, feet, hands. But when found, the rope was removed. Cocaine was in her system, and investigators believe she engaged in sexual activity right before her death. She was so beautiful and young, yet no one knows who she is even after 30 years later. Police searched area, strip clubs, and interviewed underground crime regulars, basically seedy people known to law enforcement, and no one knew anything. Just a horrible way to go. and someone dumped her like she was nothing amongst literal trash. She wasn't trash. It gets to me. Edit: when you Google the case, actual morgue photographs come up. Very NSFL, NSFW, so if you don't like seeing that type of stuff, hold off on researching her. The Sodder children. On Christmas Eve in 1945, the house of the Sodder family caught on fire. After evacuating themselves, they noticed that 5 of their children, that decided to stay up late, were now missing. Believing they were still in the burning building, their father ran to get the ladder only to find it missing as well. Unable to call for help, their home burned to the ground. Only the next morning, firefighters and police could arrive. No remains were found among the ashes and debris, but the 5 children were declared dead in absentia, with the cause of the fire being placed on faulty wiring. However, the family was convinced that their children didn't just die in the fire. At the same Christmas Eve night, Mrs. Sodder received a phone call by an unknown female asking for a man Mrs. Sodder had never heard of before, chuckling and hanging up. When Mrs. Sodder went back to bed, she was awakened again by a noise on the roof, but went on dismissing these odd incidents until she could smell smoke. Further investigations revealed that the phone line had been cut at around the time of the fire. A late-night bus driver would also come forward, recalling that he had seen fireballs being thrown at the Sodder home. Sightings of the missing children would also come in, including that of a Charleston hotel owner who had seen 4 of the children in the company of 4 Italian-speaking adults. 3 months after the fire, the youngest remaining child found remnants of a pineapple, an incendiary, napalm bomb, which was now found to be the actual cause of the fire that started on the roof. Bone fragments were found during a re-excavation on the site of the former Sodder home, but they were found to have belonged to a 16 to 22-year-old male, while the oldest missing child was a 14-year-old boy. It is believed that the 5 missing children had been abducted by Italian agents and brought to Italy. Or they did die in the fire, but the parents and surviving siblings refused to accept this. Either way, none of the kids or their remains were ever found. Madeleine McCann. Unsure of spelling. The little girl who disappeared out of her bed while at a resort with her parents. She pisses me off because £11.6 million has been spent looking for this most definitely dead girl. 180,000 people are reported missing every year in the UK, but we don't spend 11 million on each and every one of them, do we? No, we spend about £2,400. My aunt was kidnapped 3 years ago. She had just turned 18 almost a month before. I had only met her once before. I remember the moment we found out, because my mom's family were at a party when we all found out about their little sister. She was never found, no one is even looking for her. People are scared to even mention her name. We miss her. Technically only temporarily missing. July 2014. I was working as police in a small town. Minimal staffing, so we had 3 police for 6,000 square kilometers. Then one called in sick, so we had 2 of us with 4 years experience each. A father calls and his son is riding his motorbike and hasn't made it to his house 280 km away. We go talk to his friends and he isn't off at a girl's house. It's out of character for him to not turn up. We get him leaving work at 3 p.m. and filling up on fuel at 3:05 p.m. He has a full tank and is riding a 1000cc motorbike to his dad's place, so he has about 200 kilometers before he stops for fuel. We ring every service station along either of the 3 routes he would have taken and no one has seen him. It's rural, so no traffic cams, and we get a ping off his phone around 3:30 p.m. saying he's gone the twisty way. It only got escalated to be worthy of a phone triangulation after we exhausted all other avenues. His phone is out of service, so we drive slowly out to the border of our area whilst still keeping communication with Dad in case he turns up. I had the feeling at about 9 p.m. that he'd crashed the bike and he was dead somewhere. Turns out I was right. He cooked a corner and cartwheeled the bike about 20 kilometers out of our area. Probably burst an artery and climbed back near the road in the brush. Took his helmet off and died. Dad and friends ended up driving the route at 15 km on the back of a ute and finding him 2 days later. I was shitty as hell how hamstrung we were with resources and that the neighboring area's police didn't give a fuck until he turned up dead and they had to do the report to the coroner. His dad started a missing persons crusade on Facebook that I followed for a while. I got out of the police 5 years later with PTSD. I always think about this one particular guy laying the dying wondering if help was on the way. It upsets me, but I'm told it was part of the tide that wore me down. My dad's. Just because it is really hilarious to me. So he was not a good dad or a good husband. My mum left him when I was about 5. His response was to pack up and leave without saying anything to anyone. So apparently all his friends thought he was a case of a missing person. They went to the police and tried to find him but with no luck. So they finally had a funeral for him because they assumed he died. When he went back to visit them, I guess a number of his old friends thought they were seeing a ghost. How long was he gone? And why did they think he had died? I feel like there's a lot to this story. Kelsey Schelling. She was a young woman who lived in Denver, and started dating a guy from Pueblo, named Dante Lucas. She found out she was pregnant and told Dante. He convinced her to drive 2 hours down to Pueblo to talk about the pregnancy. Her car was found abandoned at the Northside Pueblo Walmart, and she was never seen again. The car left abandoned for a few days until an unknown male was seen driving off with it. Dante is the prime suspect, but he has never talked about it. She's still missing. No body, nothing. I remember this because I went to high school with Dante and he was from my hometown. The James Kloss situation sticks with me. A guy for no reason picks a random girl to follow home because he saw her get off a school bus once, kills her parents, and abducts her. Luckily she managed to escape and is safe now. Didn't help my constant paranoia of my surroundings, because that happened a state over from where I live. Maura Murray. For those who don't know, Maura was a 21-year-old nursing student at UMass in Massachusetts, who, for no apparent reason, drove her barely functioning car to a part of New Hampshire where she had never been before, crashed into a snowbank, tree, turned down help from a bus driver who stopped at the scene, and minutes later, when police had arrived, was gone. 16 years later, no trace of her has been found, and no one knows what happened to her. You look like you've enjoyed this video, so give it a thumbs up, it's free, and consider subscribing for more content. Have a wonderful day.